It's Halloween time here at GameTrailers. We're getting into the holiday spirit with a rather grim tale. It's no secret we love to cover the Legend of Zelda series on this show, but there's one installment we haven't covered until now. Due to popular demand, we're finally tackling a myth about the 2000 N64 cult classic, Majora's Mask. No, we're not going to discuss the infamous creepypasta post about the haunted cartridge, but rather an actual mystery that sprung up relatively soon after the game came out over a decade ago. Near the beginning, when Link first travels to the alternate realm of Termina, you come across a strange-looking tree. It's the nature of this very tree that's the subject of our episode, the tragic tale of the Deku Butler's son. Soon after the game's release, players were under the impression that there was some way to restore that lonely tree back to its original form. Rumors and speculation ran rampant, and a handful of theories sprung up as to what you had to do in order to save this NPC from its grim fate. After all of these years, we decided maybe it's time to take a closer look at this myth and see if it holds any root in reality, or if it's just another work of fan fiction. When you first arrive in Termina, after chasing down the mischievous Skull Kid who stole your beloved companion Epona, the imp curses you with the power of Majora's Mask. Link is transformed into a Deku scrub, and is left to wallow in his misery when one of the Skull Kid's fairy companions, Tattle, gets separated from the group. She reluctantly teams up with the Hylian hero, and the two set off to Termina only to discover that they have 3 days to thwart the evil plans of the Skull Kid. Should they fail in their endeavors to restore peace and order, a giant moon will come crashing down, obliterating everything. First, the player must find a way to restore Link to his normal form, which includes completing a series of tasks within the 3-day time limit. Upon successfully reaching the top of the clock tower on the evening of the final day, Link confronts the Skull Kid and reclaims the Ocarina of Time stolen from him. This prompts a flashback where Link remembers the Song of Time, allowing Tattle and him to return back to the start of the 3-day cycle. Over the course of the game, it's up to the player to continuously manipulate time to accomplish tasks, and then reset the cycle before the moon crashes until you're ready for the final showdown with the Skull Kid. When you first return back to the start of the 3-day cycle, Tattle reminds Link that he should talk with an NPC known as the Happy Mask Salesman. Link encounters this character when he first arrives at the clock tower, and he promises to return Link back to normal if he can retrieve the Ocarina of Time. Once Link accomplishes this, the Happy Mask Salesman teaches Link the Song of Healing, a powerful melody that soothes the soul of those in agony, allowing them to find peace and move on from this world. This song allows Link to shed his Deku Scrub form and leaves behind a Deku Mask, an item that allows Link to transform into a Deku Scrub at will. Later on in the game, Link uses the same melody to pacify the spirits of a fallen Goron hero named Damiani and the lead guitarist for a Zora band named Mikau. In both instances, their souls find respite and a mask is left behind. So how does this tie back to the lonely tree we saw back at the beginning of the game? On your journey to the first temple, Woodfall, you must first complete a series of tasks involving coming to the aid of a monkey on trial for kidnapping the Deku Princess from the Deku Palace. When you first venture into the palace's throne room, you may notice an NPC to the side of the Deku King, known as the Deku Butler. This humble servant begs you to do something to pacify the king's rage, but later on, he plays a more important role in your quest. After rescuing the Deku Princess and saving the poor monkey from a gruesome execution, the Deku Butler will ask you to meet him in a nearby cave outside of the palace. When you arrive, he promises you a reward, but then quickly takes off and races you to the end of the obstacle course. It's similar to the race with Dampé in Ocarina of Time, though this one's layout strongly encourages you navigate it as a Deku Scrub. Should you reach the end in one piece, the Deku Butler grants you the Mask of Sense. However, before leaving, he mentions that you remind him of his son, who left a long time ago. This alone isn't enough to confirm the tree you see at the beginning is the Deku Butler's son, until you complete the game and watch the ending credit sequence. One of the final scenes you witness is the Deku Butler in that same area at the start of the game, kneeling before the tree as he appears to be trembling. The emotion he's expressing combined with his previous testimony leads to the logical conclusion that the tree you see is his child. The question remained whether or not players could do anything to alter the unhappy reunion. Given that you heal 2 other NPCs as part of the story, players assumed you could use the Song of Healing on the tree and trigger some special cutscene. Players also assumed that the spirit housed in the Deku mask was that of the Deku Butler's son, so they believed there had to be some happy reconciliation to his sad tale. The main goal of the game is bringing happiness to people's lives and righting all the wrongs caused by the Skull Kid under the influence of Majora's Mask. There was just one problem. When you first arrive inside Termina's clock tower, the path to the previous area is immediately sealed off. No matter what you do over the course of the game, the door blocking your path home doesn't open. Except during the ending credits, where Link is seen back riding Epona in the Lost Woods near Kokiri Forest. So the question remained, was there a way back to the Deku Butler's son? Over the years, players discovered that there was a way to backtrack that far. However, the method to do this wasn't exactly intended by the game's developers. The first way involves using a glitch to get past the door, while the other simply involves using cheat codes. The first method requires players to activate a glitch known as the Infinite Sword glitch, and then hop onto the railing on the ramp up the clock tower. After lining yourself up in a certain way, you then use another glitch only possible while the Infinite Sword glitch is active. Using something called bomb hovering, Link can backflip while detonating bombs that allows him to both travel backwards toward the door while increasing his vertical height without falling back down to the ground. If you do this enough times in succession, you'll be high enough to clear the collision detection of the wall and door blocking your way with a final backflip. While we started out using this method, we figured it would be much easier to use a device like the Game Shark. By inputting the simple levitation code, we were able to levitate over the barrier and back into the twisted corridor leading us to the Deku Butler's son. But would all this effort be for naught? After clearing the door and returning back to the Deku Butler's son, we busted out the Ocarina of Time and played the Song of Healing in anticipation of a miracle. When we were denied the happy resolution, we tried again while in Deku Scrub form. Once again, nothing happened. We continued to try a multitude of actions and items in hopes of a positive outcome, but time and time again, we were met with disappointment. This left us wondering if perhaps at one point Nintendo actually planned for you to return here as part of a quest that got removed. A quick perusal of various sites specializing in unused content like Unseen 64 and the Cutting Room Floor turned up nothing on the matter. All we could come across was the official manga adaptation of Majora's Mask, in which the Deku Butler reveals the mask Link wears reminds him of his deceased son. While this is by no means canon, it does fall in line with the speculation outlined thus far. With our options dwindling, we were then forced to turn to Nintendo in hopes of getting some insight into the matter. We asked if the developers could confirm the tree at the start of the game is the Deku Butler's son, whether or not his spirit is sealed inside the Deku mask, and did the development team ever plan some way to restore the NPC back to normal? Unfortunately, our inquiries went unanswered. Unless we have a chance to sit down with the Zelda team in the future, or Iwata asks for the highly demanded 3DS remake of Majora's Mask actually happens and sheds light on the mystery, we're likely going to be left in the dark about the true nature of the Deku Butler's son. What's a certainty at this point is no matter what you try, it's simply impossible to restore the long-lost spirit to normal.